All right, folks, we are just going to give this a shot. I don't really know what was going on with the audio for the last 5 or 6 minutes, so thank you very much for your patience. Folks, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. If it's your first time here, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you ask me any questions at all that you have related to fantasy football. We are trying this vertical format out. So, okay, that was my audio test. I am coming through, so you guys can hear me, which is great. But folks, make sure you leave any comments related to fantasy football. Again, we're trying this vertical stream format out. Figured I'd give you guys something new. And instead of doing a video of me ranking the quarterbacks for Dynasty, I figured instead I would just do it live, get your responses, and we could start a bit of a conversation. We're going to need to do the very best that we can to entertain ourselves in the offseason. So I will say before we get started, I am essentially doing this with quarterbacks who played this year and played a decent amount this year. So this doesn't have rookies. There's no Caleb Williams. There's no Drake May, right? There's no Spencer Rattler. There's no insert quarterback or anything like that here. I'm only leaving them out because I really do think it's tough. And you'll see me include them in some videos. Obviously, there's rookie redraft and all that good stuff for Dynasty, which is what we're covering for the next few months. I really didn't want to put any rookie quarterbacks in this video just because it is so tough pre-draft to honestly line all these names up with quarterbacks who have established jobs with teams and say, yeah, I think Caleb Williams is 12th right now. You have no clue where he's going to go, right? There's options. He could go first overall to the Bears. He could go to the Commanders. There are definitely different scenarios that could play out, but I really find it difficult to sit here and honestly tell you pre-draft, this is where I think these guys are going to rank. Does that mean I'm not going to do any videos on potential rookies or people who are about to be drafted before the draft? No. But with this type of ranking, I really just want to sit back and give you an honest evaluation of the quarterbacks as we see them. So that's what we're going to do. All right, I see Andy's in the chat. Andy, what's going on? Saying Darren Waller or Dalton Schultz? Yes, folks. Any questions you have for Dynasty, trade requests, any of that, please pop those in the chat below. So, Andy, I am going to go Dalton Schultz. I said that in the chat already, but Dalton Schultz, obviously younger, and really what I care about is less of an injury history. We've also got Dalton Schultz in a phenomenal spot, quarterback-wise. Darren Waller, I mean, Daniel Jones had a good couple of years, but the main thing with the Giants is Daniel Jones had a horrible year this year. There's talk of them being overpaid or him being overpaid. And this Giants offense in general looks pretty lackluster. So there's your question answered there. And again, just health-wise, Dalton Schultz doesn't have the extensive injury history that maybe a Darren Waller has so far. Andy's saying in 7 leagues already, might drop out of 1. Yeah, I can't blame you. I really can't blame you. Mostly because, I mean, my goodness, right? That's a lot to manage at once. I'm going to try and get the chat up here. See if I can do it for you. And folks, if there's any difficulties at all, technical wise, I apologize. This is my first time really trying this, but thought I'd give it a go. Give you guys something to look at. It worked. We'll see what I think of that in a bit. But yeah, folks, thanks so much for joining. We're going to do some quarterback rankings, and then from there, I don't really like how that looks. We're just going to remove that. We'll do some quarterback rankings, and I might go on Sporkle and take some quizzes as well. We're just here to hang out and talk Dynasty and answer any questions that you have. So Andy's saying he's in 7 leagues, might drop out of 1. I did 6 this year, and the big thing with me is I want to make sure I'm still having fun. And also quality over quantity, right? You don't want to be in a spot where Jaylen Warren scores a touchdown and it helps 4 of your teams and hurts 3. So I did 6. I think my limit is 5 or 6. I think I really got close this year to the point where I might not be succeeding overall anymore. So I'm probably going to cut it off at about 5 leagues, Andy. So if you want to drop one down to 6, can't blame you. Everyone's got their limits. That's about where mine is at the moment. Brian saying, I wonder when you start to take a quarterback in a 10 team, do you bite on one early, 2nd or 3rd round, or wait until later and grab your wide receiver and running back depth? Brian, first off, great to see you, man. Second, I would say it depends. Some of these higher ranked quarterbacks, and folks, we are going to get into this list in about 60, 90 seconds here, right? There are going to be certain quarterbacks that I would jump for in 2nd or 3rd round the top 3 or 4, mostly because of their rushing upside. And in the NFL, obviously, most formats, 10 rushing yards is a point, whereas 25 passing yards is a point. And if you have a dual threat quarterback that's really prioritizing the act of the run, yeah, we've got something cooking there, right? And MA Football Guy's saying 1 is only 4 man. Yeah, okay, well, that doesn't fully count then, I guess, right? I was in a 4 man, and that was one of my 6. So if that's not too tough to manage, then you're doing good. Love Sporkle. Yeah, we will get into Sporkle. So, folks, I am done delaying here. Thanks for sitting through some of my technical difficulties. We're not really going to go in order. I'm kind of going to pick some quarterbacks out and move some people around as we go and consider a lot of different variables. So strap in, come along on a ride with us, and let's have some fun, all right? Any questions you have throughout, feel free to chime in. Aaron Rodgers, very, very interesting because obviously hurt after just a couple of plays this year. He does have Garrett Wilson at his disposal. Breece Hall, one of the most monstrous running back weapons in the entire league. The supporting cast is honestly more than fine. The defense has looked great. A-Rod, though, older. We have injury concerns, and the Jets really sold out on him. They can't go out and get somebody else huge unless they make a little bit of space. You know, there's talks of Devontae Adams joining Aaron Rodgers in New York. There's talks of a lot of this stuff. I'm going to throw A-Rod, at least for the time being, in the low-ish B range, okay? So, again, not going in order. I'm probably just going to take quarterbacks as I see them here and go from there. Rodgers, being older, being on a team that really sold out for him, not having much time left. Dynasty, we like people who are going to be around for 5 years from now, and we cannot say that about Aaron Rodgers. I might even scoot him to C. We're going to put him in B for now, and we'll see what happens. Anthony Richardson's up next. This one's super interesting because, again, another beginning of the season injury. Anthony Richardson has decent weapons. He's got Michael Pittman. He has, of course, Josh Downs, who really broke out his rookie year. Also has Alec Pierce. So a lot to like there, I would say. You know, it's not the worst supporting cast in the world, especially with Jonathan Taylor signing on long-term and being one of the highest-paid running backs we've seen. Anthony Taylor has the rushing upside. Anthony Taylor has a lot going for him. I'm going to put him above Rodgers, obviously because he will be here in the next 5 years, and I do think he has a pretty firm hold on his job. Minshew looked good, but I think Minshew is more likely than not going to the Jets, going to the Patriots, going to a team that didn't just invest in a quarterback and is looking for a more concrete answer. So, you know, that's tentative. We're going to move some people around for sure. Baker Mayfield, another one I could easily be putting in this same tier, especially with the weapons he has at his disposal. He's got Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is kind of hanging in the balance because of the free agency thing and the fact that he is 30 years old. So how much longer is he going to have a youthful and explosive and impactful Mike Evans? I don't think it's fair to say that Mike Evans would be gone in the next year or two just because of age, because he had one of the best years that we've honestly seen out of him this year at the ripe age of 30. Baker, redemption year. All credit to him. If you look at my preseason Dynasty quarterback rankings, it did not look like this in terms of where I'm about to put Baker. I've got him right here. I might even put him here, to be honest. Better weapons, less of an injury history. He just needed a chance, and he's signing with them. So we'll go there. Brock Purdy's up next. Is that Brock Purdy? That is Brock Purdy. The best supporting cast in the NFL. I have no problem with saying that. Not a whole lot of rushing upside, so I'm not really ready to put Brock Purdy in the S tier. But you've got Deebo Samuel. You've got Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. You've got Brandon Ayuk, who after 4 years has literally gotten better every single year. And that's partially due to the fact, in my opinion, that Deebo Samuel is getting a lot older. And all of a sudden you need somebody to take over that wide receiver 1 spot. So I'm going to put Brock Purdy at least tentatively in the A tier, and we're going to move some people around, folks. This is not concrete at all. I'm kind of just placing at the moment. I am ranking, if you're just joining, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy. We're ranking quarterbacks that played this season at some point and could be the guys somewhere going forward. We're leaving out rookies at the moment because we are pre-draft, and we're just ranking them for Dynasty. So we're trying to look big picture and help you out. If you have any Dynasty football-related questions, please drop those in the chat. We're going to put Brock Purdy at A because it's really hard to put him lower than that, considering he has the best supporting cast in the league. I know that Cam Newton said something along the lines of Brock Purdy's the 10th best player on his team. That's really not an insult when you look at how stacked San Fran is. So I'm taking Brock Purdy at A. Bryce Young is next. Now, this is a great time to mention that I don't think these rankings are a great reflection of the player's skill set. I think if you put Bryce Young on, perfect example, say the 49ers with a lot more help, well, all of a sudden, maybe he's in the B or A tier. We really don't know. That's kind of alternate universe stuff. Bryce Young has no help. Bryce Young is on a team that should have the number 1 overall pick this year, but sold it off and gave up DJ Moore for Bryce Young. So you've got Terrace Marshall, you've got Jonathan Mingo. Those are names. You've got Miles Sanders, who's about to be approaching the wrong end of 30. I'm pretty concerned the next couple of years. Do I think Bryce Young is screwed for the long term? No, but I think for the next couple of years, it's really hard for me to be optimistic about this situation. So Bryce Young, first overall pick from 2023. We are going to put him in the D tier right now. We'll scoot some people above and below him and go from there. But yeah. Andy's saying I'm really shy with rookie picks. Got Mahomes and Burrow in my 4-man. Yeah, you want to double up on those elite quarterbacks for sure. And Mahomes got that rushing upside, especially with the lack of weapons he had this year outside of Travis Kelce. Burrow, we just need him to stay healthy. Right. So Bryce Young's going to go here in the D tier. We move on to CJ Stroud. I almost made him the thumbnail because, oh my goodness. And I will wholeheartedly admit this, especially when I'm wrong. And I was here. I put CJ Stroud at the tail end of my rankings and couldn't have been more wrong heading into the season. Didn't look great in preseason. I definitely overreacted. There was a lot going on that I, am ashamed to say. I just judged a book by its cover. Ohio State quarterback going into a system that didn't win a lot of football games last year. But sure enough, CJ Stroud breaks out. He brings Nico Collins up with him. Tank Dell looked phenomenal. There are a lot of aspects to be optimistic about in Houston. I'm putting CJ way up here. CJ gets in the S tier. There are 36 quarterbacks here. You're going to see some overlap. Rodgers is on the board, but Zach Wilson's over here. I think CJ Stroud needs to be back end of the S tier because of what he did with what he had. Now, is Houston going to have a phenomenal draft pick? No, but they have draw. They've got what some would argue is a top 5 quarterback for the future. They've got a breakout wide receiver duo in Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Noah Brown was a pretty decent third option at times. Dalton Schultz was going out there. These are not names you would have expected to be considered household coming into the year, but CJ Stroud distributed the ball all around and gave us a lot to be excited about. So Stroud's going to go in that S tier, and I think it only gets better. I think this is one of those scenarios, you're going to see me bring this up with a different quarterback down the road, where the guy didn't have the most help in the world, and he still lit the world on fire in his first season as a starter. There's plenty to be excited about. We move on to Dak and the always high-spending Cowboys. The cap did go up about 30 to 40 mil this year across the NFL. You'd think Taylor Swift for that one. I'm just kidding. But, well, not really. She brought in a lot of money. Dak's got CeeDee Lamb. Dak's got a great supporting cast with Michael Gallup if he can stay healthy as well. Dak also has Tony Pollard. Jake Ferguson looks pretty great this year too. I mean, it's your usual high-flying weapons, your playmakers on the defensive end, and Micah Parsons. This doesn't really affect Dak's performance a whole lot. But at the end of the day, you have someone who was vying for an NFL MVP with about 2 weeks to go, and then Lamar snatched it. Purdy was up there as well. Dak has a lot of help. Kudos to him. He skyrocketed up my boards this year. Yeah. Someone who dropped like a rock and who I was saying was a steal at QB9 going into drafts this year. Daniel Jones, you're down here, buddy. And honestly, I'm putting him in the E tier. Great running back. Honestly, I'm shocked I didn't see more read option from the beginning with Mr. Jones and Saquon Barkley. Didn't get the chance to. Subpar football play from the beginning. He looks like a rookie again. Jones regressed a ton. And, we can make the argument he didn't have a whole lot of weapons. Wan'Dale Robinson was in and out. They didn't have Kadarius Toney anymore. They went out and got him Darren Waller. And I would argue with less, Daniel Jones did more in 2022. He just took a huge step back this year. The Giants have shown time and time again throughout the last few years they're not the most capable when it comes to building an offense. But this guy especially with his rushing upside, seemed as if he was going to be just fine. As if he was going to be able to make the most of what he had. He took his team to the playoffs the year before, and now here we are. I'm going to put Daniel Jones just behind Bryce Young. Bryce Young at least stayed healthy and showed some glimmers. And Bryce Young, had the worst supporting cast in the league, so I'll cut him a break for now. For the future, I feel like it can only get better. We go to Derek Carr, who moved from Vegas to New Orleans. This is kind of the ugly part of the tier rankings at the moment. I'm going to throw Derek Carr at the front end. We'll go back end of C. Derek Carr is one of those middle-lying, very consistent performers. Another one who's going to stay on the field. I don't believe he's cracked the top 10 in standard PPR or just your standard fantasy scoring yet in his career. But I don't think he's gone below the 25th spot. So he's kind of just hanging in between 15 and 20 more times than not. And that's exactly where I'm going to put him here. Michael Thomas was able to be healthy for the majority of this year. Chris Olave looked great. Derek Carr, in typical Derek Carr fashion, you typically watch him play with this team. They're down a couple possessions, and then he just throws up some garbage time, right? All of a sudden, we've got 100 passing yards in the final quarter with 2 touchdowns, and the team still loses. That's kind of a microcosm of his entire season, right? Derek Carr finished very strong, but for the most part, people were not going out of their way to pick him up. I'm not going to go out of my way to put him any higher than a C. Oh, I messed it up. Okay, we're still in alignment. So that's just where he's going to be. He is quite literally the embodiment of mid. So we move on to Deshaun Watson. This is quite the scenario. I'm going to put him in the B tier because I know for a fact Deshaun Watson's playing football next year, barring anything crazy. The Browns owe that man north of $40 million a year because of a long-term contract that they signed him to a couple of years ago to take him out of Houston while he was going through a bunch of stuff. Deshaun Watson is going to play football because this team is so financially invested in him that there's no way he won't play football. It's as simple as that. So even though Joe Flacco had his great run and he should be on here, he's not in this specific chart. Deshaun Watson, hands down, will play. The last 2 years have arguably been his worst, but he's still got the rushing upside. He's got a phenomenal running game around him if Nick Chubb can come back. Otherwise, Jerome Ford showed out. And the weapons are pretty good too. David Njoku balled out as well. Good supporting cast, great supporting cast when you consider the defense. And although he has been underperforming, Deshaun Watson will be playing, barring anything crazy, injury or off the field issues, falling into that category. Desmond Ridder's up next. This guy doesn't have a job next year. I'm going to put Desmond Ridder in the F tier. I thought about E. I don't think I can bring myself to do it. Inconsistency. Arthur Smith could be blamed for part of this, but I would mostly attribute Arthur Smith's issues to the misusage of Bijan Robinson, who had to scrape for a decent season. And I say decent, it was good, but by his standards and by what everybody was expecting from this generational talent, this was malpractice. Desmond Ridder in, Taylor Heineke out, Taylor Heineke in, Desmond Ridder out. It doesn't really make sense to invest in somebody in a dynasty situation when you have no clue if he's going to have a starting job. Now, there are other players on this list who are going to have starting jobs that are not in their current place. I cannot tell you with any inkling of confidence that Desmond Ridder is going to be a Falcon and or he's going to be a starter next year. Both of those things could cease to be true. Maybe he stays in the Falcons and they go out and get a Justin Fields or a Kirk Cousins. I honestly don't know, but I do know that Desmond Ridder is not somebody I would be investing in at all. If you have him in Dynasty, I really don't care how deep the league is. Take a quarterback in the rookie draft. That's a different conversation, right? Geno Smith's up next. Great supporting cast again. When you look at the wide receiving core, the 1-2 punch of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett has been proving to be effective. Tyler Lockett is also north of 30. But Tyler Lockett has been taking care of his body. If you find any other wide receiver that takes care of his body more and, does not initiate contact at the rate that Tyler Lockett doesn't. He consciously just takes a dive and avoids the extra yard or two because it means he's going to take a hard lick. Let me know. Let me know if you find a wide receiver who's more cautious than Tyler Lockett. I think he's got a couple years left. I think the same thing with Geno. I don't believe that Geno Smith is going to be out of the league and out of a Seahawks jersey in the next 2 or 3 years. Next 5 years, that's a different conversation. That's why I'm kind of struggling to put him above this front half of the seats here. But for the most part, I'm happy with Geno. I'm happy with the performances he's had. And I'm happy with the fact that he is a volume passer. He's going to be top 10 if he stays healthy throughout a year in passing yards for the year. He's going to get you points, and he's got guys around him who are going to help as well. Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker III, 2 pass-catching backs when they need to be. We're fine there. Jalen Hurts, say what you want about him. He is a fantasy juggernaut. Now, regular football, did he have the best year? Definitely not. Plenty of turnovers, right? But he had 15 rushing touchdowns last I checked. The tush push was invented in and is used the most in Philly and is the most effectively used in Philly. When that team is on the 1-yard line, Jalen Hurts is going to be in the end zone. It's just how it works. Dominant offensive line. The running backs are going to find a way to push them up and through. When you invent something, you're typically the best at it, and that phrase holds true in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, the rushing upside alone has him up here. He also happens to have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, a pair of 1,000-yard receivers. Now, Hurts got hurt for a couple games this year. I will say, all things considered, we saw some toughness. He did not have to play as many games as he did. The Eagles started to fall apart, so then he kind of yanked himself back in and said, I'm playing regardless. There were people, like someone out of the Carr family, I believe it was David Carr, saying, I'd rather go with Marcus Mariota the rest of the way. Jalen Hurts and his competitive spirit was not going to let that happen. So you give him credit there, but you mostly give him credit for the rushing upside and the fact that the dude can flat out score. The Eagles could lose by a couple of possessions, but Jalen Hurts might have thrown for 200 yards with a pair of interceptions and 2 rushing touchdowns, and you're feeling fine. So those rushing touchdowns are for 6, and he's scoring a lot more for you. Jared Goff's a fun story. We're going to put him higher B tier. Amon-Ra St. Brown's around him. Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, will they be there in a few years? Who knows? I would say the best running team in the entire league when you look at David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, a 1-2 punch. Montgomery's fresh off of his rookie contract, and Gibbs is a rookie. So these guys will be around for a while. Goff, when there were 8 quarterbacks left, was the oldest option, I believe. So that just shows you how young the league is getting. But he had one of his better years. North of 4,000 yards is what we've been seeing from Goff. And with this supporting cast, I do think that he can surpass 30 passing touchdowns more times than not. Get some water real quick. Hope you all are doing well. We're only about 2 months away from the NFL draft. So if there's any particular players you want me to do a draft profile on, please feel free to let me know. Folks, if you're just joining, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, and we are ranking today's quarterbacks. And by today's, I mean guys in the NFL right now from a dynasty perspective. So we're looking big picture. There's no Caleb Williams. There's no Drake May. Those will be later videos and live streams. Right now, I strictly want to evaluate the guys who have a team, even if that team might change. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be an F. The guy cannot stay on the field. I don't think I have to say much more than that, to be honest. Can't stay on the field. When he's on the field, he's fine. I mean, you've got one of the best receivers in the game on that team in Devontae Adams. You also have Jacoby Myers, who had one of the best years of his young career. He is a free agent, so we'll see if Las Vegas can hold on to him. But the best ability is availability, and Garoppolo has not had that. Yeah, it's tough business. Talking about Dynasty. You cannot have Jimmy Garoppolo as your A1 or your backup and really be super confident that he's going to do anything for you because he hasn't been on the field. Joseph Burrow. He will be, we're going to go A tier. Now, if Mr. Burrow plays a full 17-game season, I feel completely fine about throwing him in the S tier. The fact of the matter is we have seen him fail to do that a couple of times now. Had the knee injury when I believe Chase Young tied him up, his rookie year. Goes off and takes his team to the Super Bowl in year 2. Does fine in year 3. This is where things get a little sticky. He's been hurt again. So he's been hurt twice in 4 years. I'm really not that confident that he can stay on the field. Now, I'm not Jimmy Garoppolo pessimistic about him because I do think he's worth the long-term contract. And he also has, again, we talk about supporting casts. He's got Jamar Chase. T. Higgins was just franchise tagged. I feel very confident about Mr. Joseph Burrow. The injuries just have me sliding him down a tier. I'm not that concerned yet. It hasn't been the same injury twice. He's been banged up in a few aspects. He's going to be probably our highest A tier. We'll see what happens. I think this guy, I'm going to throw him above Burrow. Yep, call me nuts. Call me absolutely nuts for putting Jordan Love over Joe Burrow in a dynasty format, but here's what I know. Joe Burrow had the best wide receiving core for the last couple of years. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, who he'll have for another year, Tyler Boyd. Those are 3 guys who could be wide receiver 1s on a handful of teams. Jordan Love just threw for 30 passing touchdowns. Jordan Love just had one of the best first-year starter seasons, not rookie seasons, because he did sit and marinate for 3 years, of anybody to put on a jersey and play the position of quarterback. And Jordan Love did that with the youngest wide receiving core in the entire league. Now, you've seen me do YouTube shorts on this. You've seen me make so many rants about this. If you don't know, I am a Bears fan, so there is no bias coming from this at all. I don't want to root for the guy, but he's been phenomenal, right? So, Jordan's in here. How's it going, Jordan? Says the grind never stops. Yes, sir. Probably talking about Love there. Yeah. You're right, Jordan. The grind does never stop. Shout out to you for letting me know that this vertical format is going on for streaming. I appreciate it, man. We'll see how this one does. But Jordan Love's going to go above Joe Burrow because he's done more with less experience, with less experienced receivers. I mean, he was throwing Jaden Reed, rookie, Romeo Doubs, second year, Christian Watson, injured and second year, Bo Melton, rookie, Tucker Kraft, rookie, and Luke Musgrave, another tight end, rookie. The veterans were in his backfield. Aaron Jones, gone for half the year, and A.J. Dillon, played the majority of the year but had a down year. Everything around Jordan Love would indicate that the Packers should have won like 6 games. They won as many as they did, and they won a playoff game because of this guy. Now what do you think they're going to do? What is that front office going to do? Because they might just have their 3rd straight Hall of Fame quarterback. They're going to build around him. The experience is in the defense. Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage. These are established names that were supposed to hold down the fort for an offense that wasn't supposed to look good. The offense looked great because of Jordan Love. All right. You could make the argument that Joe Burrow looks great because of the wide receivers around him. You cannot make that argument with Jordan Love. Yeah, that was probably the most time I spent on any quarterback, but the guy could easily rise up and be top 3 next year if he gets some help. Or, I mean, he only had 1 year in. He just gets another year under his belt. Josh Allen, number 1. He's finished inside the top 3 in each of his last 4 or 5 years in fantasy. It might be more than that. The rushing upside, there is turnovers. The durability, and the passing volume. Josh Allen also has Stephon Diggs. He's got Gabe Davis. He's got Dalton Kincaid, who had a pretty exciting rookie year, and also had Dawson Knox. The run game wasn't too much of a priority. James Cook had a good year. I believe he did eclipse 1,000 yards. By the way, Delvin went from being a top 10 running back to I don't even know anymore. Like, the guy wanted some money. I understand. I'm not sure what his agent was pushing for, but he went from being the guy in Minnesota, and Alexander Mattison was not the guy. It was very apparent who the backup was last year, to being a backup for Breece Hall and then a free agent. And then he went to the Ravens for a bit. So, yeah, kind of a fall from grace. Anyway, back to Josh Allen. Rushing upside, passing volume, durability, everything you could want. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, when it comes to their play styles, are one and the same, essentially. Josh Allen just gets less tush pushes, but he will still be the brunt of the running game for this team. So, yeah, from one Josh to another, we go to Josh Dobbs. Weird season. I'm going to put him E tier because we saw a flash of something. You know, he goes over to Minnesota after doing what he could for an Arizona Cardinals team that wasn't going to win a whole lot of football games this year. And he has a really good first 2 or 3 football games with the Vikings. Then he throws an ungodly amount of picks and turns the ball over a ton against the Bears. Plays another game, gets benched. And we haven't seen him since. Now, if all went well, the table was set for Josh Dobbs to be the guy in Minnesota because Kirk Cousins, who we're going to get to in a bit, is a free agent. I would argue the most valuable free agent on the market right now. And the Vikings, if they didn't have to pay him and could have paid somebody like Josh Dobbs, we'll call it $25 million for 2 years, they would have done it. And through a couple of games, he was playing like he was going to get that type of contract. I don't think they would have committed to him long term, but they would have given him a tryout year or two because the guy's doing his job. Raven Mad saying, oh no, in the comments. Is that in response to Josh Dobbs? Let me know. So I don't want to put him in F because he did have a flash of greatness. There could be a quarterback competition in Minnesota. If Kirk comes back, he flies down to F, and we don't really know what's going on. I don't think he gets a starting job somewhere else unless the Vikings just don't invest in a quarterback and hold a competition. But we're going to hold out that glimmer of hope because of what we saw early to mid-season. Justin Fields. Yeah. We're going to put him... We are going to put him, for the time being, in 10th. The talent of Fields, the athleticism of Fields, the ability of Fields, and the dynasty upside of Fields because of his rushing upside. Undeniable. The uncertainty of where Justin Fields will be playing football next year, also undeniable. Will he be a starter? I do think so. It would either be for the Bears, in my opinion, or the Steelers. Patriots could be one. Falcons could be one. He is from Georgia. Actually was a Bulldog for a year before transferring to OSU. There's a lot that could happen. This is the one that could probably fluctuate the most between now and April, depending on what the Bears do with that number 1 overall pick, and in turn, whether or not they keep or trade Justin. We have seen him run a decent deal. He did break the single game record for rushing yards for a quarterback. There's a lot to like. We just don't know where he's going to play, and that's kind of what it stacks up to. Now, we talk about supporting cast a lot. And in that conversation, you can't really talk about supporting cast or lack thereof without mentioning the situation in Los Angeles with the one and only Justin Herbert. Herbert has played with Keenan Allen, heard a decent amount the last couple of years with Mike Williams, with Joshua Palmer, with DeAndre Carter, all these guys who could not complete a full season. Josh Palmer had a full season 2 years ago now, not this last year. And you have an offense that is just getting older in general around Herbert. You have Austin Eckler, who's the best pass-catching back in the league for the last couple of years when Christian McCaffrey wasn't 100%. And when he was, this guy was a definitive number 2 in Austin Eckler. He's nearing 30 now. He definitely lost a step this year and couldn't stay healthy. But Herbert does throw for volume. Herbert has cleared 4,000 yards a couple times. Herbert has cleared 30 touchdowns before. Herbert is going to put up points, but his ceiling rises a ton if the people around him can just stay on the football field. He also does have Jim Harbaugh, so that does help a ton. Going from Michigan and getting that natty at the collegiate level in the college football playoff to going to a Chargers team that definitely has a different scheme at the moment. You know, Big Ten football, you're running the ball a lot. That is definitely what embodied and backed the Michigan Wolverines. We can't really say that about this Chargers team because A, they weren't winning a whole lot, so they were not in a position to run late in the game and have a balanced attack. And B, everyone kind of just got hurt. So it was Easton Stick and friends at the end of the year. So that is kind of where we sit with Herbert. I still believe he is a prime example of untapped potential. And if there's anyone who's going to tap said potential, I like the odds of it being Harbaugh. Folks, if you are just stopping in, we are ranking Dynasty fantasy quarterbacks for 2024. We are leaving rookies out of it for now. If you would please subscribe, leave a like, and comment anything related to fantasy, we can start a conversation, answer any of your questions. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We move on to Kenny Pickett. Yikes. He's going to go in the F tier as well. I was kind of a Kenny Pickett defender because, I mean, this guy is only 2 years into his NFL career. The first half of his rookie year was certainly rough. Not used to talking for 40 minutes straight, to be honest with you. First half of his rookie year was definitely rough, and then he started to shore everything up the second half of this rookie year. Goes into his sophomore campaign. The job is his. He was the only first-round quarterback, I believe, in his class, and just craps the bed. And don't say he didn't have talent around him, because Deontay Johnson, when he was back, was fine. George Pickens is one of the most athletic players in the entire NFL. Freiermuth could have looked better. But at the end of the day, the quarterback play in Pittsburgh could have looked better. So I want to make sure we keep in mind how close those two variables are. Because, yeah. I mean, the subpar quarterback play was insane. We went from Pickett to Trubisky to a lot of different things. And yeah. Not really what you want to see. I'm sorry, there's just something going off on my phone here. Okay, we're good. Yeah, not a ton to like in Pittsburgh. I don't believe that Kenny Pickett has a job next year. Dylan's been on the live stream the last few weeks when we've been doing our position grades by position, or by division, excuse me. We just did the AFC West. NFC West will be next. And I'm a firm believer that, like Dylan said, you know, Kirk Cousins could go there. Justin Fields could definitely go there. The destinations and the possibilities are endless here, and not for a good reason. So I don't think this guy has a job next year, starting job at least. Now, we talked about Justin Fields being a candidate for, you know, the highest fluctuator between now and draft time. Kirk Cousins could certainly give him a run for his money. Kirk could be anywhere. He could be in Minnesota. He could go to Pittsburgh. He could go to Tennessee. There's a lot of different destinations that Kirk could have, you know. So what I do know is he was throwing for great volume with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison. I think when you look at the fantasy value of Kirk Cousins, the best case scenario is he does stay in Minnesota considering the other options. There's plenty of offensive help, and fantasy-wise, there's kind of defensive help too, because lately, the Vikings defense cannot stop a nosebleed. And as a result, Mr. Kirk has to put up, 28, 35 points to really compete. So there's kind of that pressure there too. It's why I liked Sam Howell early on, and that turned out pretty well until, he had the horrible turnover issues. I like Kirk for the same reason, because that offense has to put up a ton of points. They're not going to win a whole lot of 17-14 ball games. But Kirk's future is very much in doubt. So we're going to put him around the same range as Justin Fields, just a little bit below because he doesn't have that rushing upside. Kyler Murray is up next. I don't think this team goes for a quarterback. I think they are definitely in the run for Marvin Harrison Jr. if the Bears don't make that move. And Kyler does have rushing upside. Yeah, this is getting to be a very long B tier. So we're going to scoot Mr. Rodgers down here. We're going to scoot Mr. Deshaun Watson down here. Derek Carr is going to go to the D tier. I told you there'd be some shifting. I told you from the beginning. So yeah, we were talking about Kyler Murray. Definitely some rushing upside. Marquise Brown is there, and that's about all I have to say. Rondale Moore's had some good moments. James Conner, not really a pass-catching back. He's always been that bruiser. That's why Pittsburgh went out and got him. That fit their identity. That's their Najee Harris now. So that's what we've got going on there. I'm looking at the rest. Am I going to have to scoot some people down? I think things are going to sort out pretty well. Lamar Jackson's an S tier. I'm an idiot. Beginning of the year, I put him around like fringe top 10. Went completely against my rule because he did miss a clump of games over the course of the last 2 years. So we're referring now to the 2022 and 2021 seasons. Lamar is fine. Lamar is a rushing quarterback. Lamar has decent weapons now. Zay Flowers had one of the best seasons of any Ravens running back throughout the Lamar Jackson era, which isn't long and it's not saying much, but he definitely served as some sufficient help. Rashad Bateman needs to stay healthy. The lackluster running back situation kind of helps Lamar and puts that pressure on him to run, at least from a dynasty perspective. I do see him, again, as Dylan put it a couple of weeks ago on a previous stream, I see Lamar kind of evolving into a more Russell Wilson archetype. What do I mean by that? He's going to have to be throw first, but you could still get the occasional designed run in there, right? Russ actually shed a few pounds going into this year, and he had some designed runs built in under Sean Payton before the whole relationship fell through the basement. But I do feel very good about Lamar for a very long time. I think that, the Michael Vick comparisons were fair at the beginning. I think he can easily be better. Has he been performing in the playoffs? That's a different conversation, but he's durable with a couple of exceptions. There were some 12 to 10 game seasons in there. Don't know the exact numbers, and yeah, it's not worth putting him below the S tier just because of his effectiveness on the ground. Matthew Stafford is going to be kind of in that middle range again. I'm going to put Derek Carr up here. Can't really say he's a D at the moment. Stafford's got Mr. Cooper Kupp, who's around 30 now. Puka Nacua is essentially going to replace him. Matthew Stafford has no shame in just targeting a certain receiver over and over and over and over again. We look at some of Megatron's seasons. We look at Cooper Kupp's record-breaking season a couple of years ago now. And then we look at Puka Nacua's record-breaking season along rookie measures. And what's the common denominator? Matthew Stafford was the quarterback. So that is about all I have to say about that one. He's going to shovel it out. When he's healthy, he's fine. Stafford is in his low to mid-30s, so we do have to start looking ahead if we're locked into a dynasty league for a few years. This is not our first choice, but if you're somebody who does a slow burn draft when you look at the quarterback position and you're okay with taking the 15th or 17th best guy off the board, Stafford's going to be available, and I do think you'll get a fair value for him. Mac Jones is an F. Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler his rookie year. Mac Jones is an F. He fell out of the sky, was not working good under Matt Patricia. McDaniels came back to try and fix things at one point. Things are not going well. It was kind of like the Falcons, right? Lost his job to Bailey Zappi. Got it back, lost it again. I don't think either of them are the answer. If Zappi was on here, he's going right next to Mr. Mac Jones, probably a tad below him, just because we've got more of an idea of what Mac has done. I don't feel confident about any of this, though. Like, literally at all. So, Mac is going to be F, and I have no problem saying that. Not a whole lot of help. Demario Douglas is there, which we know about, but no. Mac Jones is an F. He's probably not going to have a starting job. And if you're seeing a common denominator here in the F tier and even the small sample size of an E tier, these guys are not guaranteed jobs, starting jobs. And so, dynasty-wise, I would not mess with anyone really below the C tier. If you have to go for a Bryce Young or Daniel Jones, you're asking for a 180 turnaround Bryce Young. You're just asking for the guy to get some help. Patrick Mahomes still had a pretty dang good season. He doesn't have the rushing upside of the two guys ahead of him in Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. But what he does have is probably the best arm in the NFL. 3-time Super Bowl champ, 2-time MVP, 6-time Pro Bowler. And what he did numerically, considering it was Travis Kelce and friends, is pretty crazy. Now, no disrespect to Rashee Rice, but he by no means is or should be a wide receiver one at the moment in the NFL. I hope and do think he will improve going into his sophomore campaign. But even Juju Smith-Schuster putting up roughly a 900-yard season last year was better. Kadarius Toney was supposed to be the guy. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was supposed to have a greater impact. Drop issues. Toney, drop issues as well, and also just being injured. Inconsistencies. This team in general was a ragtag group of receivers, and Mahomes made it work. I would be shocked if A, the Chiefs do not go after a free agent like a Jacoby Myers. That's not going to fix everything, but it will definitely help. Or B, they just don't straight up draft a receiver. They need to address the vacancy that is the pass catching position for the greatest quarterback in football right now and maybe ever when it's all said and done. Mahomes, with that being said, took lemons, made some of the best lemonade that's ever been made, for your analogy there, and he's third. Russell Wilson is not going to be a Bronco next year. I mean, there are contract implications. He will likely play somewhere else. He did put up decent numbers this year, so I'm honestly going to put him ahead of Stafford. Touchdown interception ratio was good. He was throwing for volume. And again, what did he do with his lemons? Well, his lemons were Cortland Sutton, who actually had a really good year from a touchdown scoring perspective. He also had, oh my goodness, what is his name? Big play receiver. I forget. And then he had Jerry Jeudy. Oh, that's going to grill me. I got to think about that. But not much else. Still a lackluster offense. He was supposed to come in and solve it. Statistically, on his own, looked fine. But, yeah, not too much to be excited about with Mr. Wilson. Ryan Tannehill came in, kind of cleaned up the mess. I feel like we've had the same theme with the Tennessee Titans over the course of the last couple of years. I mean, Ryan Tannehill comes in after they try a variety of quarterbacks, and he'll throw for 250 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, and the Titans will win 20-17. It's always something like that. One common denominator they do not have going forward is Derrick Henry. After 8 seasons with the Titans, he took the microphone in the home finale this year and thanked the fans for their support, so the writing's on the wall there. We've got some comments. Burrow is still S tier. Love isn't A tier yet. Okay, that's fair. You're thinking Love is still, like, not quite there. I'm saying Love is A tier because I think he only gets better. I think it only gets better with Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. You know, these are all first and second year receivers. Bo Melton. I think he did a lot with what he had. Burrow has amazing weapons, but is T. Higgins going to be here after 2024? Because, again, just got franchise tagged, and there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. I don't know, but I respect it. Those guys are both definitely up there. And we go on to Sam Howell. That's all I really have to say about Ryan Tannehill, right? This is a team that's definitely in the running for Caleb Williams. I do think Howell has a home somewhere. He's another one who could have thrown for the most passing yards in the league if he just played the whole year, essentially lost his job, and there were a variety of quarterbacks playing for the Commanders. So kind of how I feel about that one. Mr. Howell, if you have a job, you go up to the D tier. If you don't, you fly down to the F tier. I'm really unsure about these 3 guys. So F, they're not going to have a starting job next year. I can almost fully guarantee it. E, they might, right? Dobbs could float around. Dobbs could stay with Minnesota, and Cousins doesn't stay, and there you go. There's a competition. Tannehill could go somewhere and be a veteran backup and show up down the back end. You know, he's shown he can perform, but I think we are seeing the twilight of his career. And then Sam Howell, same thing, right? Which is super weird because, again, just a second-year quarterback, but when you've got somebody like a Caleb Williams or a Drake May on the board, when your team's on the clock, what decision do you make? Trevor Lawrence, definitely a letdown of a year. Definitely a letdown of a year, 100%. We're going to go mid-B tier. We're going to scoot Kyler down here. We are going to scoot Derek Carr down, just so we don't have a billion people in the B or C tiers. About all I can really do there. Richard saying, what would you offer for Dak's next contract? When can teams start talking to free agents? I believe the free agency period's pretty soon. Like, super soon. Let me look that up. Yeah, it is soon. It's 2 weeks from now. We've got March 13th through the 15th. Clubs may enter contract negotiations with their impending unrestricted free agents. So that's your Jacoby Myers. There's a pool of people. Richard, thanks for stopping in, man. Yeah, so March 13th through the 15th. We're looking at about a little over 2 weeks from now. What would I do for a Dak Prescott contract? I personally think the guy gets way too much hate. You can kind of see that reflected in the fact that I do have him in the A tier. For Dak, if I had to put a dollar value on it, again, the Cowboys, they've got some money to spend more times than not. They do have a lot of mouths to feed with Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, possibly Tony Pollard long term. All the running backs really aren't that expensive. Dak, I would say 5 years, 160 mil, 32 mil a year. The market's inflated. He'd probably get more than 32 mil a year, but I say they backload it. You know, you want to keep Dak around. You make sure the last couple of years are worth a little bit more. I'm not a GM, but that is definitely what I would do. I think it's going to be really hard for a team like the Cowboys, considering they did make the playoffs, to go out and find a better option than Dak Prescott, especially out of the draft where you'd essentially have to start over. And if you were to get anybody, you know, worthy of your pick or worthy of starting over with, it'd be like a Caleb Williams or a Drake May. They would have to trade up. Now you're losing future draft stock or some of your current assets. I think Dak gets, 5 years, 160 mil. Thanks for the comment, Richard. Appreciate it. Folks, if any of you play Dynasty Fantasy Football and you have questions, I'm currently ranking the quarterbacks that did play this year and were involved in some capacity. We're leaving rookies out, at least for the time being. But if you have any Dynasty Fantasy questions, please, please, please pop those in the chat. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe as well if you haven't already. We are on the road to 1,000, and I would greatly appreciate your support. In exchange, if you have any video ideas, you could drop those in the comment section as well. We've got a few ideas in the vault, but you just let me know. Tua Tagovailoa, we're going to go top of B tier. Why is Tua not an A? I did not forget how scary those injuries were, not this season, but last season. Tyreek Hill is going to retire after this contract with the Dolphins. I believe he all but said that on a podcast. Jalen Waddle had a down year, so a combination of durability issues. I'll put him bottom A because we still get a lot of passing volume. Tua is not a runner, but yeah. D-Dimes24 saying, how do you start a Dynasty league? So you're basically getting a group of people together. There are apps out there like Sleeper is a phenomenal app. You can do it with ESPN Fantasy Football as well, but you do have to toggle the settings a little bit more. Sleeper would be my number one recommendation. I'll probably be doing a Dynasty league with all of you guys this year to help you get involved. We'll do like a 12 or 14 teamer. And D-Dimes24, essentially you are going year to year. I will be having a video out in the next week or so on what Dynasty is and how you play and how you start one. So feel free to like and subscribe if you're looking for content like that. This is kind of an instructional channel for the next few months until we get football. But short, sweet, and simple, D-Dimes, a Dynasty league. You're starting it with a group of people who wants to play with your assets year after year after year. So first year is essentially like a regular fantasy league, right? You draft your, call it 20 rounds or whatever it is. But going into the following year, you have keepers. Now, most Dynasty leagues, you can only draft rookies the next year, meaning certain people will be free agents when they're let go. And there's different things like that, right? Head coach saying, name an NFL team for an edit. Ooh, let's go with the Ravens. We've got Lamar, we've got Zay Flowers, we've got Isaiah Likely coming up with Mark Andrews kind of getting older. Let's go Ravens, head coach. I'll look out for that edit, man. But D-Dimes, the second year, you're drafting rookies in Dynasty. So you keep your core, and now you're looking at Caleb Williams or Drake May or Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's a more abbreviated draft. And the whole purpose of a Dynasty league is to build a team that can perform year after year after year. In Dynasty, you can also trade picks. So let's say you want Austin Eckler from me. I give you Austin Eckler, and in return, I want your second round pick for 2025, right? Or 2024 going into this year. That's kind of how it works. So you need a group of people who are going to play year after year. There's usually money involved because you're not going to put a whole lot of time into something like that, especially to that extent without money. And then your drafts going forward are involving rookies, and your trades involve future rookie picks. There are keeper leagues, so where it gets a little weird, where first year is the same. Second year, let's say I get 3 keepers on my team. I'm going to keep Joe Burrow, I'm going to keep Jamar Chase, and I'm going to keep Saquon Barkley. The rest of everybody else's team outside of their 3 keepers goes to the draft board and you redraft. Dynasty is, here's my team. Next year I'm drafting rookies, and there's usually a limit. So like you get 15 people you keep. The back end of your bench is the free agency fight pretty much. So then you look for those. Yep, no problem. Looking forward to seeing that Ravens edit. How long does it usually take you? I'm just curious. I do enjoy seeing those. Folks, Zach Wilson is going to wrap up our our quarterback rankings. What a rough year. What a rough year. Yeah, he's an F. These are people who will not have starting jobs next year unless Aaron Rodgers tears the old ACL again. And no, I'm not manifesting that. We will not see Zach Wilson. All right. That is our rankings. We've got Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, Stroud, and Jackson in the S tier. Love, Burrow, Herbert, Purdy, Prescott, and Tagovailoa in the A tier. In the B tier, it's Goff, Mayfield, big comeback story. Lawrence, kind of a letdown this year. Fields, we don't know his future. Richardson, and another one where we don't know his future. Cousins in the B tier. C tier is Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Geno Smith. D tier is Carr, Young, and Jones. E tier is Howell, Josh Dobbs, and Ryan Tannehill. Those guys, we don't really know if they're going to have a starting job, but they just might. And F tier, they're not starting next year. We're pretty confident in it. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Desmond Ridder. All right, I promised once this was done, we would do a Sporkle. So now we are doing a Sporkle. These are essentially quizzes where you have to fill in answers in a time period. Yeah, I know, real specific, right? They're catalogs. So NFL 2023 1,000-yard receivers. You got to guess all of those. Depth charts. You can get very, very in-depth. 1,000-yard rushers. Starting offense. Stat leaders. This was updated in September, so you have to watch out for that. 2023 1,000-yard rushers? I think I like that. Let's go to that. There's only 12? Oh, and we get the teams? Okay, this is too easy. We're not doing that. I want something a little harder than that. This is also the teams. We can do this one, I guess. There's at least a little more. All right, so folks, we have done our rankings. Now we are doing 1,000-yard receivers on Sporkle because I don't really want to hop off this live yet. I feel like I haven't been on too long. So feel free to shout out your guesses with me. I feel pretty confident that I can nail this one down. Oh, yeah, you can see all of them. Okay, Dolphins. I only have 5 minutes, so this should be interesting. Dolphins is Tyreek Hill. Cowboys is CeeDee Lamb. Lions is Amon-Ra. St. Brown. Are these in order? They are not. Okay. Nakua. Eagles is A.J. Brown. Bears is DJ Moore. Niners should be Ayuk. Nico Collins. This is way too easy. Way too easy. That's okay. I better get them all now that I'm talking all this crap. This is what happens when you play too much fantasy football. This becomes a walk in the park. Pickens? Oh, nice. Olave. Metcalf. Justin Jefferson played 10 games and had a 1,000-yard season. Devonta Smith. Titans. Did DeAndre Hopkins have a 1,000-yard season? Wow. Okay, I actually didn't know that. Garrett Wilson. Chris Godwin. The 1-2 punch for Mayfield. Niners. Deebo Samuel. No. Kittle? Yes. Jaguars. Was it Ridley or Kirk? It was Ridley. Dolphins, Jalen Waddle. Panthers. What? Oh, Adam Thielen. I was like, who? Jahan Dotson? Terry McLaurin. Goodness. Average was 76. We did good. I'm happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that effort. All right, let's do a different one. Again, folks, these are the quarterbacks we ranked. Now we're playing some Sporkle. No, we're not doing top 100 by college. $100-yard rushers? Oh my goodness. Okay, this is a little harder. Now, if someone did it twice, are they in here? I would assume so, right? Okay, let's do it. 6 minutes. Raheem Mostert. I'm just going to type off names I know did it. Like McCaffrey's going to be a ton. DeAndre Swift should have a decent amount. Gibbs, Montgomery, Devon Achane, Breece Hall's in there, Jonathan Taylor's in there, Zach Moss is in there. Rams, Kyron Williams, bro. I want to call him the fantasy MVP. Just from a value perspective, he was a free agent for me, and bro went nuts. Titans, DeAndre Hopkins. Running backs, buddy. Running backs. Texans, Singletary. He went nuclear one week. James Conner. Raiders, Josh Jacobs. Samir White. Wow. Had a better game than Josh Jacobs this year. Better best game, I guess I'd put it. 136 yards for the Jaguars in week 5. Mr. Travis Etienne did that a few times. Vikings. It's not Alexander Madison. Ty Chandler. Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco. Steelers, 129 yards. It's either Najee Harris or Jalen Warren. Saquon Barkley. Ravens. Can you see this? I don't know if you can see this. You can. Okay. Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins. Lamar Jackson. Justice Hill. Who is 128 for the Ravens in week 9? Edwards, Dobbins, Hill. No Jackson. What? Okay, we'll come back to that. Aaron Jones. We go back to the top. Falcons. Robinson. Cowboys. Pollard. Chargers. Eckler. We're doing very good. Chase Brown? I don't know. It's freaking Joe Mixon. Okay. 7 left. Chubb. Ford. Walker. Bears. Roshan Johnson. Was it Deontay Foreman? Fields. Oh my gosh, it was Justin Fields. Panthers. Chuba Hubbard. Oh my goodness, we're just missing this one. A Ravens rusher for 128 yards. Lamar Jackson. Dobbins. Hill. Melvin Gordon? Who is that? Folks, we are playing Sporkle now. Just already did our starting quarterbacks, Dynasty rankings, and if you want to help me out here, a Ravens running back in week 9 went for 128 yards. I'm doing 100-yard rushing performances. It doesn't have to be a running back, actually. So I've tried Lamar. I've tried Gus Edwards. I've tried J.K. Dobbins. I've tried Justice Hill. I've tried Melvin Gordon. I've tried Delvin Cook. Oh, my goodness. Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell. Here we go. 100%. Average is 66. We'll play a couple more here. 300-yard passers. This should not be that hard, because there's going to be multiple performances again. Yeah. There's going to be the occasional one where like a backup came in, right, for Sam Howell or somebody. And those are the one that are really going to get me. Otherwise, we're chilling. Mahomes, Cousins. Week 16 for the Vikings. Nick Mullins. Chargers week 3. Herbert. Prescott. Howell. Mayfield. Need some harder ones. Flacco. Smith. Purdy. Trevor Lawrence. Bryce Young. Panthers week 3. Andy Dalton. Bills week 5. Josh Allen. Ravens week 7. Lamar Jackson. Jake Browning. Yep. Jared Goff. Derek Carr. Burrow. Ritter. Heineke? No. Okay. Already 23 left, so I'm feeling pretty good here. Bears week 4. Fields. Rams week 1. Stafford. Tannehill? Ooh, not Tannehill. Levis. There we go. Raiders week 3. Was Garoppolo still in? He was. Packers week 11. Jordan Love was wire to wire. Giants week 2. That would have been Daniel Jones. Eagles week 4. Hurts was essentially wire to wire. Missed a game or two at the end. Giants week 17. Was it Tyrod Taylor? Oh my goodness. Good pull. Colts week 13. Minshew Mania. Did it twice, so I skipped one. Russell Wilson for the Broncos, and that's that. I feel very good about that. Look at that stuff. How could you not be happy with that? Yeah. I'm good there. All right. We'll do one more. Folks, we're doing Sporkle. And I'm going down the NFL list here. Depth charts, quarterbacks by passing attempts, final. I want to do more than that. Best players by position. Can we do like older quarterbacks? Oh my goodness. We're going to do some videos for these because I think these are hilariously fun. Quarterbacks with at least 100 starts for one team? I'm confused. Oh, there's multiple for certain teams. Okay. The format's odd. So we have to name quarterbacks that made 100 starts for a team. Make sure you can see my score here. Okay. Ready, set, go. Oh, it just gave me nuns. All right. Montana. Carson Palmer. No. Bills. Jim Kelly. Oh, it gives you the entire... You only have to name one. I don't like that. Let's pick a different one. Folks, we already did our Dynasty quarterback rankings. We are just going to do some Sporkle quizzes here. Oh, quarterbacks with 100 wins. Okay, I should be able to get this. And then I'll wrap it up. There's 19. 251 wins. New England and Tampa Bay. Tom Brady. Atlanta, Green Bay, the Jets, and the Vikings. 186 wins. Brett Favre. Indy and Denver. Peyton Manning. There's 2 Mannings on here. Eli is in as well. San Diego and New Orleans. Drew Brees. Pittsburgh. Roethlisberger. Burger. How do you spell it? I'm looking up how to spell it. I know who it is. Roethlis. Oh, I almost had it. It's B-E-R-G-E-R. Denver. Elway. Green Bay and the Jets. Mr. Rogers. It's already 7th all time in wins. Miami, Marino. San Diego / Los Angeles and Indy. Okay, that is Phillip Rivers. Falcons and Colts, Matt Ryan. Maybe this is easier than I thought. Minnesota and New York. Ooh. Culpepper? I don't know that one. Baltimore and San Diego. Don't know that one. San Francisco and Kansas City. Alex Smith. Oh, he's at the bottom. San Francisco and Kansas City. 117 wins. Who is that? Who the heck is that? Seattle and Denver is Russell Wilson. Another Pittsburgh. Bradshaw? What a pull. Baltimore, Denver, New York, and Cleveland. That's Flacco. Houston, Minnesota, Seattle, and Kansas City. Matt Schaub is a no. And then Buffalo by themselves. That's going to be an older one. Minnesota and New York. It's not... Okay, I'm only 22. I'm thinking like Christian Ponder. There's a lot that I don't know here. Oh, not Dante Culpepper. Baltimore and San Diego. Lamar's going to be up here soon. Not super soon, but in a few years. Lots of winning records for him. Seattle. No. San Francisco and Kansas City. And then you got a journeyman. Houston. I'm just going to type in some random, like Unitas. Oh, Johnny Unitas is Baltimore. Oh, the Baltimore Colts. Okay. Is Otto Graham in here? No. Warren Moon. Warren Moon. Journeyman. See, I knew Houston. Okay. San Francisco. Joe Montana, bro. There we go. 30 seconds. Minnesota and New York. We already did Eli Manning. I don't know. And then Buffalo all time. Only Buffalo for 101 wins. I'm going to give up. Tarkenton and Jim Kelly. Oh, I did Jim Kelly on a different one. 89%, average was 84. Honestly, can't be mad at that. Yeah, that's fine. I was going to go back and show you my starting quarterbacks. And it's not going to let me. No, sir. The computer is tripping out. Well, folks, I will call it a stream there. So we will be doing Dynasty running back, Dynasty wide receiver, Dynasty tight ends. We can do defensive rankings as well. Those are kind of tougher. I'll probably just stick to skill positions. But, oh, there they are. They took forever to pop up. Those are our rankings for today. We did not include rookies. Once the draft happens, we will include rookies, but that's just kind of that. So did that, did some Sporkle. We'll probably go live and do Sporkle in the future too. Those are really fun. I'm going to have to dig a lot deeper to find more NFL ones. We aced the first two. They were way too easy, so we'll try and find some from the last decade. But hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one.